Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, home of the BitSquad, the largest, we all know is the greatest crypto community in all of the interwebs. No channel's working harder to keep you in the know when it comes to crypto. That's why you get it. Go ahead, hit that like button right now. It's Around the Blockchain. We come to you Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you your favorite topics with your favorite guests. Today, no exception. We've never had this panel. You know how long it's been since we've had this guy on. We're going to start on the top right, though. It is Mac and Cheesy without Meg Griffin's hat today. He can show off, those beautiful locks there. Then on the bottom right, he's fresh out of a cold plunge, but don't worry, he's all fired up to talk about crypto. It is Arcane Bear. Then on the bottom left, fresh from the weekend concert where she saw a sacrifice, it is Ragzy. You can check her out at Ragzy Art. Not on the top left, we have the better half of New Money Gang, and fresh from a top 8 World Series of Poker finishing, he came in with a lot of stacks. So I don't want to share your business out there, but good job, Brian. I think he put it all in Gala. Who knows what he did with it, but we're going to be talking about the PMI report. We're talking about what Warren Buffett is actually doing with his portfolio. Do we want to copy him? And also Telegram's NFTs, Toncoin. What's going on with that? We'll cover all these topics. But first, let's look at the crypto market, see where things are heading. And it looks like maybe a little bit of pain on the hourly, but we are green in this 24-hour. You see Bitcoin up 1.7%. Ethereum, though, up 4.5% there. Maybe signaling things turn around. We could kind of see here maybe some higher lows starting to form, maybe a bottom, maybe a little bit of a channel moving upward. Arcane Bear. I was kind of looking at this little channel. We have a little short-term channel forming on Bitcoin. A lot of people are saying scary numbers to me, though, Arcane Bear. I'm hearing 10K, 11K. They're acting like it's going to happen tomorrow. What are you looking at when you're looking at this kind of some of the short-term Bitcoin price?
Well, generally, I try to take a longer macro approach. I'm not a day trader. Some people like to do that. I really prefer to spend my time doing other things than staring at charts. But effectively, we're in a buy area. Whether we go to 10 grand or we have hit a bottom and are going to continue up for Bitcoin is almost unimportant. We're close enough. That $6,000 to $3,000 drop we had back in 2017, it hurts, but it's significantly less to the downside than there is for room for the upside on the long term. The second video I ever produced on YouTube was like Bitcoin's going to $6 million. I still think that's going to happen over a long enough period of time. I think most of these currencies will die and fail. The United States dollar is no different. It's had a hegemony that stayed strong for a long time. But I believe what we're witnessing in society today, the cracks in the societal contract, these are really right near the end before the US dollar goes blip. You need something else. Bitcoin's a great opportunity. We'll talk about Warren Buffett here in the next set. I think these guys have missed a lot of the long-term modeling aspects of currency itself. So there are some positives to look out for, but it may not be today. Even if we do have short-term pain, it's for that long-term gain that we're interested in.
Yeah, and you said, all the cracks in society. You mean Andrew Tate being banned today, correct? That's specifically what you're referring to.
Even crazier, just the fact that people are rooting on banning people from social media. They are actively speaking out against free speech. And one of the most important things in any dialogue, whether it's scientific or just open general discussion, is to actively seek out people that have different opinions from you and try to understand how they got to that conclusion. If we're actively like the people are like, yeah, we banned this guy, like it shouldn't be on there. We're so close to like falling right off the cliff into tyranny here, because we've banned more people since 2020 than ever before. Like social media is basically useless now because most of the people that were fun to listen to aren't there anymore.
Yeah, I miss the old school free speech days, ACLU, the old school ACLU, not what it's become. But I would agree, ban people's, if you don't like someone's words, that's one thing. But when you just ban every word they may ever utter, it's a slippery slope and it doesn't end well. All right, let's talk about this PMI report, though. And relative to Bitcoin, this is yikes. The PMI just fell to 45. That is near recession levels. Services PMI is down to 44. You can see the big crash, the big COVID crash here. You can see the big, the 08 crash leading into 09. And then maybe, we don't know if it's going to end soon, if this is going to reverse. Now, the PMI, this is the U.S. Purchasing Managers Index. And this is weighing 5 major areas here. It's new orders, inventory levels, production, supplier deliveries, and employment. And I can't really, I'm trying to bend my fingers there, but it's a little tough still. So they're talking to some of the top executives here. This is over manufacturing. And from these metrics, it looks like, maybe a lot of pain on the short term here. Brian, I'm going to bring it to you first. We have the PMI data. It's showing a retraction. The last time it looked this scary, March and April 2020. We all know what happened there. A huge, huge crash across all the markets there. Is there a chance, now that we're getting some of this bearish news, that the government might ease up on their quantitative tightening? Does this mean maybe money printer go burr?
I mean, listen, my parents have been texting me to like buy food. They're thinking that everything is going to go down. I think next, like specifically September and October for some reason. I don't know. So like I feel it. I feel like everyone has this consensus, like, oh, like recession is coming. It's getting worse. Now, is the Fed going to ease up? I don't think so, because their goal is to lower how fast inflation is coming, right? So I don't think they really can do much. I think they're going to try to keep that low and keep it lower. So no, I think money will still be expensive for now. I don't think they're going to pump anything in to try to boost the economy. And we might need to see max pain. That might be what they want. So I don't think that we're going to see any kind of tightening on that soon.
Yeah, the max pain, it's we've talked about on the channel before. Wash all the people out, wash out all the bad actors. Have we hit max pain at 17K? We don't know, remains to be seen. Now, Ragzy, I wanted to quote Jamie Dimon here, one of the top CEOs in Wall Street here, and he recently commented something worse than a recession. It could be coming, maybe even whispers of a depression here. Is this what you're seeing? I mean, you were just at a concert. We both went to the weekend. You were in a different city. The whole thing was packed full of young people. Tickets are selling out. People are still going out. People are still traveling. You're still having conferences. Does it feel like a depression is coming, a recession is coming? What are the vibes that you're getting on your end?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think we've always kind of secretly been in a recession, right? I don't feel like, no matter what the data shows, I feel like we never fully came out of that 2008 like big crash. Things have definitely like changed ever since. I don't know. I mean, we've seen the headlines the other day. Google, they've just told all their employees to expect like major layoffs, right? So, and that's one of the biggest tech companies in the entire world. So it's like, I think we've been in a recession, but things aren't looking good. Even though people are out and about, I feel like part of that is due to the fact that everyone's kind of stuck inside. All of COVID, and people are just excited to do events again. So people are definitely more inclined to spend money on those kinds of things and those kinds of gatherings and whatnot. But just even in the past like 6 months, I remember I was in LA like earlier this year and went to these great restaurants. And then I went back for a different NFT conference months later, and they all went out of business. Like none of them survived, like in just such a short amount of time. And I do see that going on a lot in especially in the city areas across the country, because I've traveled a lot this year. So it definitely doesn't seem like things are turning around anytime soon.
All right. Now, final question on this topic. Mac, I want to talk about this number again, this PMI. Once again, new orders, inventory, production, employment, supplier deliveries. We're talking about a lot of major issues when it comes to supply and demand. And supply and demand has a lot to do with inflation. If there's not enough milk cartons are going to go up. You look at year over year, you're like, oh, my milk went up 30%. This is inflation, although it could be a supply-demand issue more than anything. What does that tell you when you think of, our objective goal of getting to 4% inflation by the end of the year? When you see these PMI numbers, what is that telling you?
It's probably a good thing in a sense that we do need a pull. We can't just keep going up. Prices of things or like prices of assets can't just keep going up. So I think this isn't the worst thing that can happen. And I do agree with Ragzy that I think we are in a recession. I've said it on this show a number of times regarding holding cash. As much as I hate to say it, right now holding US dollars isn't the worst thing. And I think Brian's parents when they were saying to go buy food. Do you think that he went and bought food when they reminded him? That is a question that the chat can probably answer. But these are kind of things that personally that I'm somewhat scared of. I got out of real estate market. I sold out of my apartment in Miami. The real estate market was going absolutely absurd. I took cash off the table there. I'm holding as much US dollars as I've ever held because I'm ready for things to kind of crumble and burn. I'm waiting for it. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe there's some more quantitative easing that happens before that actually occurs. But I'm preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. But kind of going back to what Arcane Bear was saying about crypto and how this relates, when I'm seeing the crypto prices, Bitcoin at 20K, 23K, 15K, in my eyes, none of that really matters in a sense of where I think it will go. When you're looking at it 10 years from now and it's trading at whatever price, whether it's 6 million, 300K, 400K, you're going to not be mad that you bought it at 23K or 15K. That won't make the difference. So where is it going from a macro side of things? And for Bitcoin specifically, and I also think Ethereum, nothing has really changed except just kind of be ready to weather the storm if and when it comes.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched yesterday's episode, we go over the halving cycle and how many days is the exact bottom or the top, and so if you want to learn more about when to get in, yesterday's episode, great stuff. And while you're at it, make sure you're following all the guests that we have on the show. Make sure you're sub to their channels. Make sure you're sub to this channel and hit that like button right now. We're going to talk about a buffet. No, we're going to talk about Buffett. Warren Buffett actually pulled up Berkshire Hathaway's stock right there. There he is calmly smiling while he lights an orphanage on fire with $50 bills. This is Berkshire's, this is the last 2 years. But if we go back, now this company has been a long time, has been around. We're going to hit the monthly. I hope you're sitting down. Are you ready? Is that Bitcoin we're looking at here? All the way down. I mean, we actually need to move it a little bit up. This is down to 10,000, down to under $1,000. If you look at the 80s, you could have got in under 1,000. You go all the way to up and to the right to $50,000. Look at like a stretched out Bitcoin chart there. And he has one of the largest holdings in the world when it comes to his cash portfolio. And he's moving his cash to short-term treasury bills. Yes, T-bills paying around 3% here. I'm looking at some of the numbers, 3.27% yield, and he had a net cash position of $105 billion last month. And out of that, about $75 billion is in the T-bills there. Now, Arcane Bear, we talk about, I know you're a long-term investor, so, we're going to count these T-bills as maybe more of a short-term investment here, so I hope you could still help us out. But do you think this short-term T-bill strategy is a winning strategy, or should he just be scooping up at these levels? So, what's your thesis?
Well, first off, Warren Buffett is kind of a gangster in the market.
You're a better investor than Buffett. You are better, Arcane Bear.
Well, something to be said about the time on deck and making good investments. He's got a really good thesis, although I think this might be one of the times where he becomes critically wrong. Having a lot of money in something that earns 3% yield is what crashed a lot of the people in the crypto sector. The US dollar is effectively has the same inherent risk in it. If something happens in the societal contract in the US, that will all fall apart. There's a huge conversation we could get into about how bonds and T-bills come to light based off the citizens and the active production of capital through each individual and the taxes that they have to pay. But one of the things I wanted to highlight too that I thought was interesting, it relates to this and also to the CPI data, is that Michael Burry put out a tweet a few weeks ago talking about the bullwhip effect. And he thinks a lot of people have this wrong. And I actually agree with him. And what you're seeing between the CPI data and maybe what Buffett's trying to offset here is you're going to see this massive move between inflationary and deflationary causes over the next few months as people tried to produce more product for the consumer to buy as consumers had more money, and now they're stuck with products on their shelves that they would be better off basically giving away for free. His argument here says, cast aside contemporary concerns about soaring inflation. This contrarian investor argues that deflationary pulses were at play. Doubling down, he suggested that economists will see disinflation in the consumer price index over time, and then ultimately lead the Fed to reversing regarding its interest rate policy. So I think Buffett might be at the end of his string of getting these things right, where he's inherently investing in something that he sees as the safe bet, which is a 3% gain effectively, when in over time, I still think he may have got something wrong. Although the rest of his investment thesis is amazing, like investing in railroads or companies that sell products that people need consistently, like toothbrushes or tampons. He was genius for that stuff. Find simple things that people use all the time, make those investments, and move in and out of market cycles. But I think he might be wrong here with the stability of the United States dollar and the government over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I also like his thesis, invest in natural monopolies. Another good one too there. All right, now, Brian, Buffett, he does have a little bit of mixed feelings on Bitcoin. He does call it essentially a scam, saying it has no use case except for you could sell it to somebody else. But he quietly invests in banks. He invested in a Brazilian bank, has a little bit of Bitcoin exposure. Do you feel that maybe the next bull run, could you see a scenario where Buffett is going to invest in some, maybe no direct exposure to Bitcoin? He's not going to go on Coinbase and market buy. But do you feel that as time goes on, more and more companies of his are going to have some indirect or maybe even direct exposure?
Maybe some of his companies. I mean, I think Warren Buffett's pretty old money, smart money. I mean, obviously, based off of the chart that you've shown, like he's had a really, really, really good track record. But I mean, times are changing, and revolutions happen only a couple times in like a country's or a nation's or a currency. And we could be seeing that sometime soon here. So like kind of what Arcane Bear said, I mean, it's kind of hard to predict when he could be wrong because it's been so good. But I mean, do I see him buying in the next bull run per se? Exactly, no. Will he survive to when Bitcoin stables out more? Probably not. Maybe that's when he would be investing in a more safer bet. So I don't see him jumping on the train anytime soon. But he's a smart guy, and at the end of the day, if he sees it performing better, than the dollar or any other asset, then possible that his companies take exposure to it.
Hey, Buffett, just go market buy some, okay? I know you got it in you. All right, Mac and Cheesy, I'm gonna lead with a quote for you. You're kind of like our Zen master every now and then. Progress happens at the speed of death. Now, do you feel that some of these older investors are ever going to change their mind and say, you know what, let's get some exposure, let's get some indirect exposure? Or is progress going to happen once, I don't want to say die out, maybe not the best term there, but when a newer class of investors starts to rise and take their positions? What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to happen at this glacial pace? Or could you see some of the mid-50s, early 60s hedge fund managers, some of these people, the Jim Cramers of the world, kind of got their ear to the street? Could you see them maybe emerging, maybe more rapidly here?
I think speed is all relative in a sense that it has been happening for a little bit now, right? So when Bitcoin first came out, there weren't these conversations, and slowly but gradually, maybe it's at glacier speed. It depends how you kind of what metrics you're looking at, but it's slowly happening and it's being talked about more and more. And I do think that for Bitcoin specifically, for major companies holding it on their balance sheet and then indirectly leading to Warren Buffett having exposure, or maybe directly leading to Warren Buffett having exposure, I think it'll be gradual, and you will see the companies that are kind of the early adopters, the MicroStrategies, the Square of the world. I think that will happen slowly, and we saw it this current run. But I do think once it really starts happening and once it becomes kind of common practice amongst companies that are in the S&P 500, it's going to happen very quickly. And you're going to need to follow, because how you look at it isn't necessarily, oh, I'm trailblazing. No, it's like, oh, I'm behind the pack. And I think that will shift. And this bull run and this kind of bear run now, or bear market with Bitcoin, I don't think it's necessarily the safe asset that a lot of people have kind of called it, right? Similar to gold. But I do think either the next one or the one after that, it will be where you're seeing people bring their funds back to Bitcoin, similar to they'll bring their funds back to gold when they're in times of potential trouble. So that may not happen now, but that will happen in the future. And once it really starts happening, I think Warren Buffett and the older people in the space, it's a pretty easy narrative for them to get behind from a digital gold standpoint. Whether or not they're in Ethereum, I think is a different conversation, or another kind of altcoins. But the Bitcoin narrative is one that I think is pretty easy to get behind once the masses can accept it.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, digital gold. I mean, you could, like you said, wrap your head around that. It's a lot easier to explain that to someone than, immutable ledger and secret phrases. All right, Ragzy, I'm expose some of your secret connections here. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to name names, but you hang out with some pretty lofty circles. People that aren't loud. They're not talking about, hey, we just put 20 million in this scammy crypto game. I'm not saying like an A16Z. They're not putting out press releases. We're not going to name who, but, you just check out Ragzy's Instagram. You see she's at what party? Oh, she's at this mansion. Oh, maybe I saw you at, the Gemini party. I'll just throw that one out there. We won't mention any others, Gloria Stefan's mansion, no big deal. But so you're rubbing elbows with people that are quietly building, not worried. Think more like a Sam Bankman-Fried than a Michael Saylor. You're hanging out more of the Sams of the world, not so much the Michaels. Are the Sams of the world, again, we won't name names, are the Sams of the world, are they as worried about this bear market as everyone else is? Are they still innovating, hiring, spending money, raising money? I mean, what's going on behind the scenes of these big companies that usually keep it quiet?
Is she trying to get me to spill the sauce?
Yes, but no protocol. You don't got to name any protocols.
I don't know how any of these people run their business or what their business practices are. I'm just cool and fun to be around, DZ. You should know that.
Yeah, but you're at the punch bowl. Someone says, yeah, I'm a developer from this, maybe they just hired me. Are you hearing any of those type of conversations?
I think just from a general perspective, I think everybody's still being innovative just because, especially in the cryptocurrency markets, because we don't know what the laws are going to be still. We don't know what the regulations are going to be revolving around a lot of things. So I think everyone's still kind of watching and doing the best they can to set up their specific company for success, so that when everything is in order and it is in line and crypto is more mass adopted and people are trading it, that they are more compliant, so that they're kind of the first ones, to get the market share of all the new people that will be coming into the market. And that's whether it's a game or an exchange or anything. So I think everybody is kind of looking that way. And we've seen a lot of firms struggle, as we expected in this bear market, people are getting knocked out of the water. We saw a lot of exchanges go under. I mean, we saw this last time, and a lot of the current ones are struggling. We're seeing a lot of different platforms and a lot of things really struggling. So I feel like the struggle will show who the true innovators are, because whoever survives this specific bear market, given the state of the economy globally, how terrible it is, those are people and those are companies that personally I'd want to invest in, because they kind of learned how to survive, during these tough times. And when the sentiment, especially revolving around crypto, isn't the best. So those companies that do survive and those people that continue to innovate, those are people that I would actually invest in long term for sure, if they can survive this bear market and still hold their company up without going under.
All right. Well, the Motown anthem, "I Will Survive," must be playing at all these offices. All right. Well, let's move on.
DZ, can I correct you? Can I correct you on something?
Yes.
It happened to be one of my favorite quotes that you shared. So it's actually by a gentleman named Max Planck. He was
Yes, it
kind of
is.
the brainchild of quantum physics. It says science advances one funeral at a time, or more
One
specifically, the quote
funeral.
says,
Yes.
yes, it says
Yeah,
a new
I knew it
scientific
was,
truth does not
I knew it was,
triumph. Yeah.
yeah, relative to science, but yeah, I didn't know it was actually science, not
Not because
progress.
there's new ideas come to light, but because people eventually die that were getting in the way.
Yeah, and it really speaks to the whole getting papers published in academia, the whole, you know, you get entrenched as in your professor position. You don't want to rock the boat. New ideas, you're just pushing back. But yeah, thank you for that. It's always
Just wanted to
like a
share
good
that one. It's one of
plank.
my favorite quotes. I love that quote. Yeah, that's the only reason I wanted to share.
If you love plank, or you like to plank, or if you just like pirate ships, hit that like button. By the way, all right, now let's talk a little Telegram, and we're going to talk Toncoin. No, not Tunions from whatever steakhouse that might be, but no, Toncoin. No, there's also Tunions at I can't think of it, but there are Tunions. Let me know in the comments who has Tunions. There's also the Outback, not Outback. All right, I want to show Toncoin USD chart, and this is actually the last time I heard about it. This was October, November last year. We all remember the run up. I remember this coin pumping, everyone talking about it. Haven't heard a single thing about it since then. Only thing I heard about it then was price went up. Well, they just had a pretty good day. They're up double digits, up about 10%. Toncoin is going to be used for Telegram domain names. Think of .ens names, .eth names. This Telegram founder, Pavel Durov, I hope I'm saying that right. Telegram has 700 million users. Just his Telegram channel has 650,000 subscribers. And they want to put out this naming system. You have to buy it with Toncoin. Now, Toncoin was associated with Telegram. SEC stepped in, essentially said, you have to back out. They now use bots to cleverly get around that. Think of Discord. If you ever got crypto on Discord, they're using bots. So not using Discord for crypto. You're not using Telegram for crypto, but, you know, the bots end up getting you there. Now, some of these names went for insane amounts of money. Casino.ton and Wallet.ton both went over $300,000. Bank.ton went for over $200,000. Arcane Bear, I'm going to bring it to you. You brought me the plank quote. I want to bring to you this Toncoin. Do you know anyone talking about Toncoin, ton domains, any kind of natural excitement about this? Or is this also kind of the first you're hearing about it?
This was the first I'd heard about it. You know,
given that, what do you think of those prices? The 300K for Casino and Wallet.
You know, this is a really interesting question. One of the things I've liked about kind of the NFT story as well is the potential for identity. You know, Telegram recently started charging for verified accounts. So if you pay a subscription because you have to identify with a credit card and some type of personality, you then get a check mark beside your name. So I have a check mark beside my name in Telegram because I pay every month for that specific feature. You know, Telegram hadn't really found a way to monetize its community yet, and if people use it all the time. It's one of the few that you can, at least to this date, still rely on for some type of security, although it's had its hacks, it's had its downsides, it's had some broad spectrum content releases over its lifetime. It's still better than WhatsApp in terms of content like shielding effectively. So if you can find a way to, I guess, encourage the community to own specific names, especially if you're a personality. You know, if you've been in the crypto sector for a long time, you'd know that there's a bunch of people that always try to copy your name, like Arcane Bear 1 or Arcane Bear with 2 R's or some shit like this. When you have that check mark, if you can get a verified NFT name, it stands out. And this is one of the reasons why people on Twitter work so hard to try to get that check mark. Although they apparently give it out with no real credibility whatsoever. As long as you agree with the narrative, you can probably get a check mark. So it doesn't really function on Twitter, but in Telegram, we have a community of people that are interested in, am I talking to the person that I think I'm talking to? And this might be one of those ways to have a more verified version of the accounts. Okay.
Now, Mac and Cheesy, you know, I think we both agree the .eth names, you know, there's definitely a little value there. Typing out 0x, yada, yada. It's a little cumbersome. It's a little, you know, it's a pain in the you-know-what. What do you think of the .ton? Is there a value proposition here? Is this, you know, I mean, I don't use Telegram personally. I don't know your experience. I might use it, you know, twice a month, catch up on a couple messages, but is there going to be, you know, a dot ton gold rush, anytime soon.
So part of the narrative in my eyes for the .eth is what it could become. It could become your digital identity that goes across kind of all platforms, whether that's future Web3 based social media platforms where it's like, okay, that's your username based on your .eth. Oh, that's your online bank account. These names, they can become something. So when you're buying or you're seeing people deny, I believe it was like $1 million offer for the Amazon.eth or whatever it is, they're not denying it because of the current state of the market and what it is today. They're denying it, or they're trying to buy it because of what they believe the utility and what the future may hold. So if this is your online identity, then the upside is pretty extensive, especially if you're a major brand like Amazon.eth, or in this case, like whatever bank dot whatever it is that they're looking to buy for 200, 300K. So I'm not familiar enough with the Telegram ecosystem in a sense of what the potential is there for building it out. But I will say having a blue check mark behind the scenes, whether however you get that, some people will spend thousands and thousands of dollars to just get that blue check mark, and they don't necessarily own the username. They can get blocked in a second. So I'm not surprised by anytime I see these things for the real generic names like bank. Like, I'm not surprised by this, because if you think that Telegram may be the de facto way to communicate in the future, having that as your username or having that as your domain, the same way bank.com is super valuable, has value. So kind of going into, like, let's say you had bank.com or you had email.com or whatever it may be, from a search engine optimization standpoint, it also brings business to your actual business, because when you search banks, you may come up first. So what do you think the future ecosystem has in store for it? I don't really know what the upside thing is there. I'll have to do a little bit more research. However, I do believe in like the .eth naming convention.
All right, Ragzy, I kind of want to ask the same. Do you also think the .eth is, going to be something huge? And I want to ask you about this .ton. Are we looking at ENS, which are the .eth names? Is this ENS 3 months ago, where it was really, really hyped? 3 digits were all the rage. And then it just went down. The hype died out. There's way too many names. You just, underscore here, exclamation point there. You end up with trillions of possibilities. Are we looking at ENS 3 months ago? Or are we looking like this is an ENS 3 years ago, where, hey, maybe there is something here?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep seeing these kinds of things just come about, just because companies figured out it's profitable, right, at the end of the day. So that's why they keep coming up with this username stuff. I think it's dangerous to an extent. Like, I don't know if I'm disagreeing with everybody, but this username thing, I really think if a company or an individual has built a brand, they should have rights to the username, whether they know it exists or not. I think there does need to be some kind of protections. Like, somebody shouldn't be able to go buy like Coca-Cola.ton and just be able to sell it for millions of dollars. Just my personal opinion, because, as we know, especially on Telegram, if you have anything to do with crypto, there's so many people who impersonate others, and you're kind of like opening the gateway there. Like, whoever hears about this new, name service or whatever it may be first can just scoop up a bunch of names and use it possibly for something that could be like damaging to somebody's brand. I'm just kind of like not about it. Like, I'm all for the usernames, but I think there should be like some kind of protection for well-known brands and trademarks, especially like if a name is trademarked, kind of to protect like these new things that are emerging. The only case I see where it's like really good and innovative and there's a market for it is if it's something completely new. Somebody actually wants to build something, using a specific username. But I think we're going to see a lot of companies, these like whatever, keep coming out. It's kind of like the internet, right? It's not just .com. We have .org, .gov, whatever. So I think there's still like, we're going to see the market flooded with all kinds of things like going forward. But I think like brand names specifically should be still reserved to protect the rights of trademarks.
All right. Well, speaking of brand, Brian, I'm going to ask you about the Telegram brand itself. I'm looking at Ton Coin, which they control, $1.8 billion market cap. We can see it right there. Telegram, over 700 million accounts. So we got almost 1 billion users. We got over $1 billion market cap here. What is the viability of Ton? We're saying, if it's going to be big, this could be huge. If. What is the if here?
I mean, there's a lot going on here, right? I mean, first of all, they have a lot of money and they have a lot of users, which is, I mean, a really good thing. But what Web3 allows, it allows, interoperability. And when we're looking at things like, the metaverse and everything we're trying to create here, right? So it, like, ENS is like low key probably the best thing that's come to crypto for like mass adoption, in my opinion. Being able to make it easier for the everyday user to get involved in Web3 without having to go through so many steps. But yeah, is Ton relevant? I don't know. I don't know what really makes it better, just because they have lots of users. I mean, ultimately, we want something that could be used across multiple platforms, right? So, I mean, I think Ton maybe has an advantage just because they got some money and they got some people that might jump onto it. But there's no way. I think the timing of them releasing this is absolutely like horrible. I don't think things are going to sell for, like, no one's buying vanity names or things right now unless you're a big business speculating on the future. And it's probably with the time when there's least interest of everyday people, and like the crypto community is relatively small, people using these ENS names. So the timing isn't great. I think they'll end up flopping. I think it won't go very far. And we'll see others rise to the top that are more interoperable with, everything else.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the numbers. I would agree. It looked a little suspicious. I don't want to point fingers or accuse anybody of anything, but they had roughly about $5 million in revenue. 1 million came from 3 names. And just, looking at the numbers, it's similar to when you see an NFT. All of a sudden, one sells for 50x more than the others. Oh, $20,000 sale. Was it used for hype? Was it used for marketing? I don't know. I'm just, throwing out that thought experiment. But that is all we have time for. And it looks like, it was the cold plunge. It was the cold plunge. The polar bear stepped up and swiped at that penguin. I know they're at opposite poles here. And took down the show. So Arcane Bear, feel free. All right, he swiped at the Inuit. And you won the show, Arcane Bear. So no, we're kidding. Swiped at the igloo. It wasn't used anymore. There wasn't a little baby in there. Arcane Bear, I'm derailing this show. Feel free. Get us back on track here. Leave us with some parting thoughts.
No, DZ, you do great. Your ability to talk is fantastic. I appreciate it. I want to thank everyone on the panel today. It's always fun to have these conversations, push outside of the boundaries, talk about things I never would have even looked at, like Ton, see what's going on in the ecosystem. Make sure you follow all of the panelists. Just like, subscribe if you haven't already to all the channels, and enjoy the rest of your day. If you haven't done a cold bath yet and you haven't done a cold plunge, at least try it out once.
All right. And on that note, I'm going to go take a cold shower. DZ out. Frankie Candles, live right now. He's back from vacation.
He's done horsing around.